here. But to do it totally for free, no server involved, just the computers of the people involved, with complete trust without having to trust any one person in any way, and be able to have this shared world that has the fairness and then the speed. I mean, I want to be able to play games in this world. So I want a ledger where I'm recording every single time a person moves or shoots or picks something up. You want to be able to do a game at, we're talking hundreds of thousands of transactions per second maybe. We want huge speed, and we want complete security. We want privacy. We want no one is spying on us. This isn't funded by advertisements. You want to spy on me so I have better advertisements. We want it just to be something that appears out of nothing, that's just living on our computers. And then, when we're able to have a shared world, we want to have multiple shared worlds that connect to each other. So maybe you and I and a few friends set up a little stock market just for ourselves to send things back and forth. The banks do this. They're called dark pools. It's like a little tiny stock market just for a few players that trust each other, sort of, but not entirely. I don't entirely trust you, and there have even been problems with dark pools where maybe banks are taking advantage of some of the information involved, and maybe one bank's hosting the server, but they can manipulate the timing a little bit, and we have to worry about this. I don't want that. I want a completely trustworthy stock market that maybe you and I and a few banks set up, but then I want to have a different stored world that maybe keeps track of a cryptocurrency, and I want them to be able to link so that that cryptocurrency is used to buy and sell our stocks. I want to be able to have a game world that links to a Wikipedia world, where it appears that pieces of Wikipedia are actually part of our world, and as they change in the Wikipedia world, they change in our world. You want to have shared worlds that are interlocking with each other, that allow shared trust even across these things. This is the vision for what we want the internet to be. It will change the way we even look at what cyberspace is, what the internet is, what are networks, even what are computers. This is what's going to happen. And 20 years from now, when the children who are born then are growing up, they're not even going to think about websites and emails as a separate thing, and internet and many of the hacking attacks that we have today. They're just going to take it as a matter of course that anytime I want to, I can wave my hands, I get a shared world, it's free, it's easy, it's trustworthy and reliable, I can invite 2 friends or 1 million friends, and it all just works. And it will change the way we think of what the internet is. That is what I started being interested in building. And this is the direction that we're going. And this is what distributed ledgers do, is they will ultimately allow us to do that. And there's a lot of rough edges. We have growing pains in distributed ledger technology today, but we'll get over the growing pains. We will get to a world that really is fast and secure and fair, and we will be able to then have this vision of shared worlds, big public ones, little private ones, everything connected. That was the idea. That was 5 years ago. I like playing with math, so I kept playing around with how would you do it, and I convinced myself, yeah, it's impossible. You can't do that. There's no way that you can have really high throughput because, and also have all these security and fairness properties. You just can't do it. Because ultimately you end up having to tell everybody what you think and then tell people what other people thought, and then you can have millions or billions of extra votes and receipts on votes floating around. It just doesn't work. So I was able to convince myself it's not possible. And I set it aside, and it would come back and haunt me, and it would keep nagging at me. And so I would pick it up again. And I would spend a couple of days going through it and going through the math and realizing, no, I was right. It really is impossible. You can't do that. And set it aside again. And this kept going for years. I have lots of math problems. Some I've been working on for decades. They just, for whatever reason, I don't know why, they just latch onto me and I can't get away from them. And eventually, I said, wait a second. If we're all just talking to each other and you include a tiny bit of extra information, we could each end up with a complete history of exactly how we talked to each other in what order. But if I had that, I would know exactly how information flowed through our community. I would know what you know. I would know when you learned it. I would know what you know about what Alice knows, and what you know about what Alice knows about what Bob knows, and about when they learned it. I would know so much that I could take one of those huge, impractical, impossible, too slow voting algorithms and do it with no votes at all. I could just sit here and say, oh, I know how you would vote, so don't bother voting. Don't tell me your vote, I know it. I'll just pretend that you voted, and I'll just pretend, and I'll just get to the conclusion. And so All we do is we just talk the way we would talk anyway to send out our transactions. We add a tiny bit of information and it gives us this entire history. The history is called a hash graph that lets you see such incredible amounts of information about who knows what when that then you get consensus for free. But that's where we're going, and we're at the very early stages. I mean, the planet is at the early stages of what ledgers can do. And I think whatever you think that ledgers might be able to do, they can do that, but they can also do more. And we are just as a species beginning to learn what the final limits are. And we're pushing as fast as we can along that path.
And so this is the gateway to the next net.
This is it. This is the next net.